picture the worst case scenario and say, can I live with it? And I said, well, what happens? If it keeps getting delayed, gets canceled altogether, gets so late I can't get on it because I won't make it back for Shabbos, I could stay at my in-laws, I could stay at my daughter in Pesach. We'll figure it out. We think that our emotion is automatic. It's automatic. I'm anxious, I'm worried, I'm angry, I'm nervous, I'm jealous. We think it's automatic. How I feel is automatic. But when we realize there's a pause, there's a pregnant pause between what's happening and how we react. Are you just a thermometer that reports how you feel? Or are you a thermostat that regulates and changes the temperature of how you feel? We did lose, our community suffered a tremendous loss. Joe Blumenthal, our dear friend, way too early, way too young, a very, very special person, a dear friend of mine, somebody with the biggest heart, somebody who was a beloved friend, somebody who was loved by all. And with the July 4th weekend and the cemetery closed Friday and Sunday, there was a urgency to get up there and to have the levaya and the burial on Thursday. And I was zocher to go with the family, and I do consider it as chus. I had the merit to be with the family and the opportunity to officiate. And it's one of the privileges and responsibilities of the rabbinate, but you become good friends and you have the privilege of being able to give a eulogy, a hesped, and to be able to bury. So I won't take you through the whole story. Nebuch, my wife, had to suffer through it, but we took an early flight up last Thursday morning, and I uncharacteristically was running a drop late. It was very early, and I pulled into the first valet at Fort Lauderdale Airport because I was supposed to come home that night. So I figured, holiday weekend, don't fight for parking, just valet, and therefore when I land that night, the car will be waiting. It'll all be good, right? I get to the first valet, and there are like a million cars. And I try to pull over and park, and the guy comes over, he says, we're closed. We can't take any more cars. There's no one to park all of these. I said, I've got to go do a funeral for a dear friend. They're counting on me. You have to take my car. And he said, we can't. You're closed. Go to the next valet. You'll be fine. Okay. I thought, if I go to the next valet, then I'm going to have to pull an OJ running through the airport to get to my terminal. But okay, I'm up to it. I'm up for it. So I'm good. I'm going to try it. Anyway, I go to the next valet, and there's cars backed up all the way. I didn't realize how far backed up they were, and I was trying to cut in, not realize I was cutting off someone who lowered his window and threatened my life in 3 separate languages, which was fine. I didn't realize. I apologized. I told him I didn't understand where the line was, and I pulled out. And if you know Fort Lauderdale Airport, you have to sort of go through cones to get to the valet, and then there's cones sectioning off that from the regular road. So now I was outside those cones on the regular road in a state of panic, not sure what to do, because if I had to go try to find parking, it was never going to happen. And I was going to miss the flight and the funeral, and the family was counting on me, and I wanted to go there and be there and send off my good friend. I didn't know what to do, and I just looked at the decal in my windshield, embrace your place, you are where you're meant to be. Had a little conversation with Hashem, didn't know what that meant, I am where I'm supposed to be. And then I don't know what got into me, but I just got out of my car and gathered my things and handed my key with a large bill that was in my wallet to a valet guy, and I said, I'm leaving my car. Here's the key. This money's for you. You could give me a ticket or not, but either way, I'm going because I have to make this flight. And he looked up at me and had no idea what to say or do. So the next thing I know, he handed me a ticket. And the next day, my car was there. Now, that was the adventure that began it, and my decal, which got me through it, because I'm not only the presenter of Living with Emunah, I'm also a member, and I try to learn from it and live with it. And then the weather was insane last week for those who tried to make their way back, right? Leslie knows this well. What time did you come in? And all the flights that night were delayed and canceled and delayed and canceled. And my brilliant, sagacious wife said to me, having been through this many times, when my 8 o'clock flight back was moved to 9 and then to 10, and it was well on its way, she said, why don't you switch to the first flight out tomorrow morning? Whatever the problems are tonight, I don't know if they'll ever take off. They end up getting so late that the pilots time out. They cancel the flight once you've waited there anyway. Just the first flight's always on time. So switch to the first flight. And she was 100% right. It was good advice. And that's what I did. And I took an Uber from LaGuardia back to my in-laws in the 5 towns so I could sleep there that night. Got up early the next morning. When I got up early the next morning for my 6-something flight, my flight from the night before had not yet landed. So it was good that I switched from it, right? But I woke up to find out that my flight was now taking off at 11:30 a.m. and was getting pushed and pushed. And now I was worried, would I make it home for Shabbos? And I want to tell you, and that's why I'm telling you this story. I just kept looking at the back of my phone. Embrace your place. You are where you're meant to be. And I kept saying to myself, I'm trying to demonstrate from you as somebody who felt my blood pressure rise and my panic and my pulse and my fear. I'm not going to make the flight. I won't make it home for Shabbos. What's going to be? That when you lean into Emunah and you say, Hashem, you've got a plan and whatever is going to be. And then you also, like stoicism, picture the worst case scenario and say, can I live with it? And I said, well, what happens? If it keeps getting delayed, gets canceled altogether, gets so late I can't get on it because I won't make it back for Shabbos, I could stay at my in-laws, I could stay at my daughter in Pesach. We'll figure it out. The shul will survive, will more than survive. No one ever complained when there wasn't a drasha. They'll make it. So when you can picture the worst case scenario and you can live with it, then you can find the strength to get through anything. And when you realize it's not up to me, this is Hashem's adventure. I'm on an adventure. Can't wait to see how it ends. This is so exciting. Let's see what's going to be. I'm going to get a story for the Emunah shiur. And I'm going to take an Uber driver who's going to talk on the phone and give me a drasha if I do make it back, for those who were here last Shabbos. And life is all one big, full adventure. And I'm sharing my own personal story because it's an example and a demonstration of, in the circumstances and the curveballs that life throws our way, which in the scheme of things were nothing and no big deal. A delayed flight, even if I would have missed that flight in the funeral, it would have been devastating, but could have survived. Worst case scenario, it would have worked out. So if you can pause, we often don't realize that in between the experience and our reaction to it, there's a pause. There's a moment. We think that our emotion is automatic. It's automatic. I'm anxious. I'm worried. I'm angry. I'm nervous. I'm jealous. We think it's automatic. How I feel is automatic. But when we realize there's a pause, there's a pregnant pause between what's happening and how we react. And that's how I felt in that moment. When I was driving from the first valet to the second, I was just looking at that decal in my windshield. Okay, Hashem, I feel panic, but I'm going to control it and regulate it. In that pause, I'm going to control myself by remembering you're in charge, you're in control, and this is what's going to happen is your call, and it's going to be what's meant to be. So by definition, it's all going to be good. And then at the second valet when it wasn't working out, and then when the flight was delayed and ultimately, and so on. And so we all have. Don't ever forfeit the pause. Don't ever neglect or gloss over or fly right through that pause. There's a pause between the stimulant, what happens, and the reaction. And what happens, by the way, can be nature, weather, and delays. What happens can be the valets are not accepting cars. What happens can be your spouse or children or your colleague or someone says something or does something that makes you want to feel a certain way. But between what people say or do, or what the world or nature says or does, and the way you react in between, there is a pause. And it's in that pause that we decide how we're going to react and how we're going to feel. I've said it many times. Others have quoted it. It's not my own. I just mentioned it at the Tanya Shiur this morning. But it's the difference between the thermometer and the thermostat. The thermometer reports the temperature. Thermometer tells you this is the temperature. It's reporting data and information. And the thermostat controls the temperature. So you can decide, are you a thermometer or a thermostat? Are you a thermometer that just reports to other people your temperature? I'm angry, I'm anxious, I'm impatient, I'm worried, or I'm happy, things are good. Are you just a thermometer that reports how you feel? Or are you a thermostat that regulates and changes the temperature of how you feel? When I gave it to the men at the Tanya Shiur, I said, you're a thermostat, and then your wife comes and changes the temperature. But at least you set the temperature. A little riskier to make that joke in here. But so we all decide and we all determine, are you the thermometer or are you the thermostat? In between the catalyst and the stimulant, and the reaction, there is that pause. And we can decide, am I leaning into Emunah? Am I surrendering to Hashem? Am I recognizing no matter how hard I try or what I do, I'm going according to His plan? This is going to work out the way He wants it to work out.